Good morning, dear students. Please take out your English literature book, Chapter 6, The Mysterious Neighbour. We had already done in the first part that there were a group of 4 boys who were discussing about the strange man's poorly maintained bungalow, which was in a shattered condition, with windows broken, walls fully stained, and parts of the paints coming off. They discuss about this man's house and how his backyard door is always left open. They had even seen a dirty man entering his house at night. Later, the boys decide to enter his house, explore and find out what is there inside it. So quietly they open the gate and enter it. Now we will continue from here. Not a sound could be heard except our fleeting footsteps on the cemented ground. And there was the back door hanging on worn out hinges, its handle broken. Rinko Talwar pushed the door slightly, a little harder, then maybe too hard, for suddenly the door sprang open and he stumbled into the house. The first room we entered was empty. Now very slowly and without making any noise, except the noise of the footsteps on the cemented ground, they tried opening the back door. The back door was hanging on worn out hinges. Its handle was broken. Rinko pushed the doors little harder and the door sprang open and they entered the house. The first room was empty. There were a few brass pots and vessels lying scattered in one corner. There was a bicycle on deflated tires which was kept leaning against the wall. The air in the room was stale. It was not fresh, but it was not making any stinking. They quietly entered the next room, looked without making any noise around themselves. The room was very dark because the curtains were drawn, but they could make out that it was almost empty. A bed was standing by the window. That means a bed was kept near the window. It was covered with a rough cotton blanket. There was a shiny brass tray lying on the table. It was looking very strange on the old stained tabletop. And there stood a glass of water and a stainless steel bowl which was covered with a plate. When they saw this, Rinko joked, "That's for us." He reached the table and lifted the plate. There, swimming in the thick, creamy milk covered with pistachios and silver foil, were 6 pieces of rasmalai. What did they see there on the table? They saw that there were 6 rasmalais which were covered with pistachio, creamy milk and silver foil and were kept there. We stared at them and then looked at each other. Rinko Talwar laughed. "Hey chaps, enough for all of us," and he dipped his finger into the bowl. My brother nudged his hand, pushed him aside and said, "Leave them alone, Rinko." Then he pointed to a piece of paper which was fully stained and yellow. That means it was a very old paper. It was standing up against the wall. Now Prem said, "What's that? Let's read it." His brother picked it up and he began to read. It was written there, "Sham, my boy, The brother paused, looked at each other questioningly, surprised. It was written in the letter, Sham, son, you might come back today. I know you will. There is your bed ready and some rasmalais waiting for you. I know they are your favorite sweets. Don't ever leave me again, son. My brother stopped reading. He could not read any further. He swallowed and just could not read on. When he finally did, there was a cry in his voice. I'm so lonely without you. No one spoke. All of us stood motionless, avoiding each other's eye. Suddenly, from behind me, I heard a whimper as little Prem began to cry. When the boys read the note, the man had written a letter to his son, telling him to come back to him. He has kept his bed ready and he has also kept rasmalais for him in the plate, as they were his favorite sweets. And he was requesting his son never to leave him again, as he always felt lonely without his son. Now, this was too emotional for the boys. All of them were taken aback, and little Prem, who was the most emotional person, began to cry. The boys decided to walk over to the old man's house in the evening. They knocked at the front door, and when the door opened and the man stood there, frowning and looking down at them, he had a very grey and hollow face. There were lines on his face. He had not shaved that day. His brother very hesitatingly asked him, "Excuse us, sir. We have come to invite you to join us for dinner tonight. Just a few neighbors. We live right next door." "Me?" asked the old man, surprised, and a bit of color rushed to his cheeks. "Me? But I can't. I don't know anybody here." "That's why it is time you got to know us," returned my brother with a faint smile. "And we would like to get to know you too, wouldn't we?" He turned to us and we cried in unison, "Yes, we would. Yes, we would." Now, the boys, realizing their mistake of judging the man wrongly, they went to his house in the evening, knocked at the door, and when the man opened the door and stood there frowning at him, the boy told him that we have come to invite him to join them for the dinner as good neighbors. The man was surprised and he was a bit embarrassed to see someone inviting him to their house. But the brothers, he said, "I don't know anybody there. How can I come?" But his brother replied, "It's time that you got to know us, and we would also like to know you." So all of them together said that we would love to know you as neighbors, so we are inviting you to come to our house. I hope you like the story. It has a very emotional touch to it. It tells us that unless we know the person or know his real state of mind and his real state of condition, we should not make judgment and we should not form preconceived notions about anybody, because our opinions change when we come to meet with the reality. I hope you understood the lesson. Kindly practice reading at home. Thank you.